everyone. Chris Gray here with College Funding. We'll be getting started here in just a minute. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us tonight for our yearly award letter webinar, award letter process. I'm also here with my associate and great friend, Angie. Say hi, Angie.
Hello, everyone.
Yep, we're going to have some fun tonight, everyone. This is a very important part of the process. I know it can be very stressful for a lot of you, so we're going to do our best to make sure you understand what's going on. And going into this process prepared and understanding what's going to happen next can actually make it a little bit more fun, hopefully. I mean, this is a big decision for all of you, a big time of your lives, and so we're here to make it as smooth as possible here. So without further ado, I think we'll get connected. We'll start the process, start the webinar. If you have questions, feel free to actually write them into the question pane, and we'll answer some of those at the end. And let's get started here. So, all right. And I think what we'll do too, Angie, too, is we could maybe even send this webinar, this slideshow out to people when we're done. How's that sound for a plan?
We can send the slideshow and the recorded webinar.
Perfect. Yep. And that's a good thing too. We will have this webinar recorded as well too, so it'll probably be up on our website here in about a week. All right, very good. So our introduction for tonight is, many of you inbound freshmen and parents are asking what's next, and so, and again, knowing what's going on in this process is very important. And after we filed the FAFSA and the application and for financial aid, what's going to happen next? So. The main purpose of this is to answer a lot of questions for all of you and make sure you understand what's going on, and definitely to know the difference between, congratulation teaser letters, I like to call them, that list some scholarship offers, and the actual financial aid award letter. And I know some of you have received award letters, but probably not too many of you have got all of them. I mean, a lot of those award letters are probably not going to be all out until, I don't know, mid-February, early March, maybe even later. Is that right, Angie?
For early applicants, it's usually mid-January to mid-February that they come out. Sometimes as early as the very end of December, beginning of January. For regular applicants, it's usually the end of March and all the way through April that they receive those.
Sure. Yeah, but I've seen some schools, some of the more prestigious ones, even wait till April or mid-April, which again doesn't give the family too much time before May 1st. So we'll talk about that. All right. So our overview tonight, what we're going to cover again is what's next after you received, after you've done the financial aid paperwork and received your award letters, scholarship letters versus financial aid award letters, the evaluation meeting. Okay, so many of you will have award evaluations with myself or our president, Stuart Grossman, but also our assistants as well too. Angie will take care of a lot of those award evaluations, and also Charlie Barnes as well too. So we'll talk about that meeting and what we're hoping to get out of it, and actually if you need one or not. Some of you may not even need that meeting, or it could be very, very quick. You really know where you want to go, and we can see that based off your evaluation form that we can send you that probably not a chance of getting more financial aid. We'll be able to let you know that. Accepting and declining offers. I know Angie has quite a bit to explain there, and that'll be good information. Accessing and using student loans. We'll have a great conversation there, and then also open it up for questions for everyone. And I see there's a hand raised here, so let me kind of see who's raised a hand. That's perfectly fine at this point. Good. Moving along. All right. So what's next? You have financial aid requirements met. This is huge, and so you won't be able to get the financial aid offer until all of these requirements are met. And FAFSA, CSS profile, the IDOC, which is a system that collects your data, documents online. And a lot of these schools, folks, they're going to send out emails that perhaps freak you out a little bit. A good thing to know is that they are default emails. It doesn't mean that necessarily the college did not get your financial aid paperwork. I can almost guarantee that they did. A good way to look at that and to confirm that is to go on through your website, through us, the filecollegeinfo.com website. A very powerful website, very helpful. That's going to let you know what's been done and be very helpful there. Anything to add there, Angie?
We actually will discuss that a little further when we give that example in a few slides. But not everybody uses FAFSA, CSS profile, and IDOC. These are all listed as potential financial aid. Each school has their own financial aid requirements, and it's the student's responsibility, along with the parents, to make sure that they're meeting all of those requirements by the school's anticipated deadline. So that's why those are all listed. Some people might be asking, what's a CSS profile? What's IDOC? If you don't know what it is, don't worry. It doesn't pertain to you because the schools that you've applied to haven't asked for it. If you're concerned about whether or not you've met those deadlines, check that school website financial aid section for that deadline information and those requirements.
Excellent. Thank you, Angie. Yeah, so it says that here too, checking on your client care center, the CCC we call it, if that school has been submitted for the FAFSA. All right, so good stuff here. Review financial aid award letters, narrow down the list of schools and only those being considered. So yeah, on your filecollegeinfo.com website through us, it's good to log on to that. I talked to many of you during your meetings, and I know it's been a while since some of you have got on that website. And you know, we're still getting kind of early in the award letter season. So now is a great time to log on to that website, get familiar with it, start to narrow down the list of colleges that's on there, ones that your student has applied for. There's no sense us looking at those schools if they're not going to apply because you're not going to get an award letter. Of course, then we'll set up our award evaluation meeting. We'll talk about appeals or special circumstances requests if that applies to you, and accepting or declining the offers from the schools. You know, many of those schools, again, what they're trying to do, folks, is lock in their freshman class. So they're definitely trying to kind of very gently push you into making a decision. And so they'll send out letters talking about putting in a deposit and other things as well. I even saw a letter this year that was very surprising. I have not seen one of these before, where it said the financial aid may actually expire fairly quickly if the family did not make a decision, which made me a little mad for the family a little bit, because in all my experience, I have not seen a family lose a financial aid that they were awarded or offered before May 1st if they didn't make a quick decision. Do you have anything to add there, Angie?
I think that particular experience was for a student that did an early decision.
Okay.
And early decision is different than early application.
Good.
Or early action, I meant.
Sure.
So that was probably why they had that quick deadline. I think it was 2 weeks from the day that they received that letter, they had to make a commitment.
That's
so
right.
There was a reason for that particular one, but these schools are getting more specific about those requirements because they're projecting their funds and they're trying to lock in those funds.
Good. Excellent. All right. So moving along here. Scholarship letters versus financial aid award letters. This is the biggest one too. And this, a lot of times, I mean, this starts to get a family kind of excited, a little stressed out potentially, getting these congratulations, you've been accepted to the school, and based off your excellent academic achievements, blah, 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 we're pleased to offer you this kind of scholarship. And then you see that money and you start to think, well, hey, this is not as much as we would like, or not enough. And so it's just the very first opening, and the award letter is much more detailed than that. So it usually, it just reflects merit-based scholarships that are being offered, nothing to do with need, because at this point the school really hasn't reviewed your FAFSA. Right now is when a lot of these schools are starting to look at that FAFSA as well, unless you did early action, of course, and they've had a chance to take a look at all that stuff. The financial aid award letter is a complete document and reflects the total cost of attendance. And so we'll definitely help you out there. And remember, we want to take a look at the full cost, tuition, room and board. Those are usually shown as direct costs. They call them indirect costs, or the books and miscellaneous fees and those types of things. Anything to add there, Angie?
Nope, that's good.
Yep. Should we show a scholarship letter right here, or that's a little bit later on?
Yes. Next slide.
Okay. Perfect. Yep, exactly. So here's an example of a scholarship letter from the University of Portland. Kind of zoom in here a little bit potentially. There we go. You can see that they say congratulations and on behalf of University of Portland. My words, pretty much exactly. I've seen 1,000 of these over the years. So pretty much the same thing they say, and they offer some nice scholarship that's usually broken up over 4 years. And so yeah, it's just kind of the teaser letter, I like to call it. They're letting you know that you've been accepted, which is always nice to get accepted and very exciting. But it's just the first step. And I guess we could. This is probably a pretty good view of it. Do you think we should take a look at the actual letter, Angie?
Yes.
All right.
Sure.
So let me jump out and take a look at that. Perfect. So here it is, a little bit closer up, folks, from University of Portland. And when you get these, I love to take a look at these because I start to plug the information in for you into your filecollegeinfo.com website, which I'll cover more in a second. That website does so much, folks. I really, really appeal to all of you to log on to it and get familiar with it. Again, it'll be your friend over the next 4 years because I start to put this information into that system, and it'll start to let me know for you as your planner, hey, what are we looking at roughly out-of-pocket cost-wise? Just roughly, of course. There are still a lot more to it. So just a very standard letter just talking about basic merit-based financial aid, not too detailed in the overall cost or anything else for that matter.
Right, right. And one thing about these acceptance letters is sometimes this one is very clear that it says 72,000 over 4 years. So that's divided by 4. That is what's going to be given each school year, so long as the student continues to meet the requirements for maintaining their academic achievement. And so usually the school will provide that information as well, so that the student knows what they need to do to maintain that award. But this is usually a projection over that full 4 years, and it's a commitment that the school is going to make to the student. So it's money that you can count on that's not going to change each year like other funds do. Also, one thing really quick is the WUI schools, the exchange program for neighboring states. Sometimes they give an award letter like this that says that the individual is accepted and has received eligibility for that. It will specify if it's a reduced tuition rate that they're providing or an actual scholarship to offset that cost. So that's if your student is applying using, relying on that opportunity, make sure you pay attention to that letter so that you understand how those funds are applied. Okay?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And again, that's for the Western Undergraduate Exchange, WUI folks. I've talked to many of you about that. And make sure you Google that and learn more about that. A really great program for out-of-state colleges. Okay. All right, let's take a look here. All right, moving along here. So here is an actual award letter now from the University of Portland. And just briefly looking at it here, and then we'll take a look at the bigger one here. You can see it's much more detailed of the numbers that they're offering. The scholarship broken up over fall and spring and the total, and then also any kind of loans that the school is offering, subsidized or unsubsidized. And I found that all these award letters over the years, they all look so different from one to the other. So it's important to understand what it is, and that it's not necessarily the end of the offer that there could potentially be some more financial aid. So let's take a look at the actual award letter a little bit closer. All right, and here it goes. All right. So as you can see, very detailed with the scholarship that they originally offered. Sometimes they'll even list some grant money potentially. Remember, scholarships are usually merit-based aid. Grants are need-based. This family qualified for the subsidized loan, which means no interest will accrue as long as that student is in college. Sometimes it'll be broken up differently depending on your need. I mean, you have to have a need at the college to qualify for subsidized loans. And that means, again, the cost of attendance, the cost of the college is greater than your EFC. And most students will qualify, and pretty much everyone qualifies for a total of $5,500 in student loans in that first year, and it'll be divided in subsidized or unsubsidized. Anything to add here, Angie?
No, that's pretty good. And you want to show them the Goucher award letter as well to show them a difference in appearance of award letters?
Yes, and this Goucher one, you can see, folks, even more detailed. I really like this one a lot better than the University of Portland. I mean, I love the University of Portland, great college, but this Goucher award letter does a much better job of listing out our school's cost of attendance, tuition, room and board, fees, direct cost, and then the indirect cost. I really like how it's very, very detailed so the family can understand. Total cost of attendance. Always really look for that total cost of attendance, and you can see here it's right around $62,000. And then the financial aid they have offered, and so you can see, great. They offered this Founders Award for a total of $23,000 in merit-based money based off the students' GPA and SAT scores. And this is where the money is at, folks. I know you've really heard me stress over the years SAT scores and grades, and now we've come to the point where all this hard work is starting to pay off, hopefully. So that's where you're really going to get the most money in this merit-based aid for the most part. But the grant money is substantial too, depending on your need at that college based off of income and assets. And again, this is pretty good, $5,000 over 4 years for this family. So total aid, roughly $28,000. So pretty good offer from Goucher. And we'll talk about how we really take a close look and see how good this offer actually is a little bit later. But I know the school quite well, and to get it down to about $25,000, this family got a great offer. Anything to add here, Angie?
No.
All right, moving along. All right. I see some questions coming in. That's great, folks. Just keep the questions coming. At the end here, we'll have time for a Q&A. So please keep the questions coming. All right. All right. Good stuff. The award evaluation meeting, a very important meeting. And I'd say that we don't want to have this meeting until we have all the award letters to be considered. It's so easy to get excited and say, hey, we want a meeting and all this stuff. But let's make sure we have all the award letters. It's very important to compare all of them apples to apples and really see how they did. And that can definitely help with negotiation as well. And of course, everyone's time is valuable. So we want to make sure we get the most out of that meeting and that we have all offers on the table to consider. So definitely a chance to, before this award letter, this award evaluation meeting happens, we want to narrow down that list of schools. The only ones being considered, of course, for that final decision, preferably top 5 schools. Around there, if you're at 3 or 7, that's okay. But again, we're trying to weed it down a little bit to about 5 schools. That'd be really great. I know many of you have more than that, and that's okay, but that'd be great. All award letters from schools should be received before the meeting. I already said that. So yeah, good stuff here. You can definitely send these to our office via email. Angie has a Dropbox link. You can send those. And also, you can start to add it on My Awards on the filecollegeinfo.com website. So let's take a look at that. I want to show that to you folks and how to do that. So this hopefully looks familiar. And this is also a big award letter webinar for us this year. We recently just updated our website. It had to be redone because of all the changes to the FAFSA. FAFSA just keeps on changing stuff, folks. And so we had to keep pace with that. So this new website is very, very good at keeping things organized. So I encourage all of you to get familiar with this again. So when you log on, you'll go to your college organization tab. You click on that, and it will list all the schools that you're looking at. So we're looking at a test student here. For example, here's George Fox. We click the drop-down menu, and then you can go to the aid entry here. And this is where you can start to input some of the information. So cost of attendance quoted on the award letter. Well, we saw at the University of Portland, for example, I don't think they listed the cost of attendance on the award letter, did they, Angie?
Not on this particular page. I believe it's on a second page.
Okay.
That, but that's okay. We can use the Goucher one.
Sure. Well, anyways, what my point there was is a lot of times I found that sometimes it's hard to find, or they don't list the cost of attendance on that award letter sometimes. I don't know, maybe I was just missing it, but that's why we have the cost of attendance listed up here, roughly estimates based off of the year before. So, you can put that in there, that cost of attendance, okay? And then, you can put in your scholarship or grant you receive at the school. And you can start to see here at the bottom, what are you starting to look at for out-of-pocket cost? And that's important, I know, to everyone, and that's important to our planning as well, to really see that, some of the estimates we projected early on in your meetings with us, through the Circle of Life and some of the reports that we've done, that we're in the ballpark for that out-of-pocket cost and where you currently stand. And then with this information, we will be able to run a really good report that, that can show how good the student did based off their academic achievements and the college's own history. All right.
Okay. Chris, can we go back to that page really quick?
Sure. To
the website.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so go back to the school information.
Okay. All right, back to the college organization page here.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. I got it right here.
And just one thing that we'd like you to do is clean up the list. Obviously, if there's a lot of schools that your student has applied to, and maybe some they ended up deciding not to apply to, delete them from the list. And you saw when you do the drop down for the school, at the end of it, there's a red remove college button. Just click that, the school disappears. And then we know you're no longer considering that one. But as schools are sending you this information, you can go in here and update this. Just save the information. Send us the award letters when you have them. I am the one that prepares all of the evaluations. So one thing that I do is I review that information to make sure it was accurately put in. And I do verify the cost of attendance. And if the school didn't do a good job estimating that cost of attendance by leaving out the indirect cost, I do research it on the school's website and add that in there for you, because it really does give you a very close approximate of what you're actually going to be paying out of pocket for your student. But yeah, make sure you clean up the list as you go along, and it makes it a lot easier for you and a lot easier for us.
Great. Thanks, Angie. All right. So moving along here. Yeah, during the meeting, of course, evaluation will be reviewed. Cost of attendance, out-of-pocket costs will be determined. Any opportunity for appeal or special circumstances, which we'll talk about. So a lot of good stuff is going to come out of that meeting. All right. It's also important to note too during this evaluation meeting, we necessarily may not need this meeting as well. So we'll be able to determine that, perhaps you're just really locked into a school or some other circumstances as well. So we'll definitely start to talk about that as time goes by. Just make sure you communicate with our office. Keep us in the loop. Make sure you're sending stuff over. I've talked to a few of you that you have been receiving scholarship offers and acceptance letters and even a couple of award letters. And, we don't know about those. So just make sure and go ahead and send those over.
Yeah, and not only that, some students only had a couple schools on their list. That is perfectly okay. They know exactly where they want to go. And if that's the case, and regardless of the out-of-pocket, especially with the state school, because there's no negotiation there, just update us what school your student chose. If you would like an evaluation report from us, I am happy to provide that to you. Just send me the award letters, and then you have that information for review, just to see that out of pocket for yourself in an actual presented figure to you, that the cost of attendance doesn't quite show you in that award letter. We're happy to do that for you, and obviously don't want to waste your time. But especially if your student is working with private schools, I think it's still really important to have that information evaluated, because even if your student is locked into a specific school and there's no talking them out of it, we still like to see if they got the best offer, and if there's any room for improvement. Okay.
Great. All right, so here's some good relevant information that we put together here. Again, just to remember here, the cost of attendance is a total for each school. Should include all those direct costs and indirect costs, the true cost of that college and out-of-pocket figure. The EFC is not your out-of-pocket cost or what they're expecting you to pay. I know that can be very deceiving. And the EFC is actually, it's just a number that's used to calculate the chance for any need-based financial aid based off your income, household assets, demographics, and those things. So, I've heard many families over there's a huge misconception about this process, and they'll file the FAFSA. and the FAFSA will say their EFC, and it'll also say, well, you qualify for this loan for $5,500, and that's all a family thinks they're going to actually get. And they think they're getting money actually from FAFSA. No, you're not getting money from FAFSA necessarily. That's what the federal government, of course, uses that number. Some families will get Pell Grants, which is a federal program, maybe some state need grants from the states. But the colleges are the ones, folks, who really give the financial aid. And they use this EFC to determine any need-based financial aid and grants, like we saw at Goucher offers. And then in turn, too, it's nice to know where a family stands so they know which pot of money to grab from, the need-based or the non-need-based. So filling out the FAFSA can help with getting into the college, we found over the years, and also help receiving your merit-based financial aid as well. So it's very important the FAFSA is filled out no matter what, in my opinion, each year. Okay.
Each year, every year, almost every school requires it in order to process your student's financial aid. And even if your student isn't getting any money from the school, the state, or the federal government, it's still a process that they have to go through to set everything up for your student to schedule classes even, because it's their process. So it still needs to be done. So don't just, if in your freshman year you go, oh, darn, we didn't get anything. Why did we waste our time? Well, because it's a requirement. Yep. And you have to do it every year.
And some colleges, believe it or not, folks, if your student does well at that school, keeps their grades up, other things as well, they can be awarded additional financial aid. I've seen that many, many times, and they want the FAFSA to be filled out. And so that's why It's also important just to stay on top of this stuff. It's just they want you to jump through the hoops. There's so much competition for those dollars. There's limited aid. So for students who, of course, jump through the hoops, complete the process, they're the ones who get the actual financial aid.
Yeah.
WorkStudy. We'll go. You had something to say, Angie?
Yeah. Some misconceptions about WorkStudy. If your student is offered WorkStudy on the award letter, there's a dollar amount there. That's the maximum amount that they could be eligible for in that school year. But that's not a grant. That's not free money. That's not a given. Your student actually has to accept a WorkStudy assignment to be able to receive up to that amount. And it depends on the hours and the type of job that they actually receive. So it's just saying that your student has the potential to earn this much more towards paying for college. So keep that in mind. Sometimes parents and students get confused by that. But the student is responsible for communicating with the school and actually accepting a WorkStudy.
And the second you see that WorkStudy on your award letter, I would advise many of you to contact the financial aid office and learn more about it, and definitely try to get up on the list for those WorkStudy jobs, because they get filled up pretty quick, and the good ones go first. I mean, I had WorkStudy in college, and I actually was able to work for one of my professors, kind of just doing basic admin stuff for him, and it was awesome, a great way to network, and it was an easy job, and I got paid for it. So those easy, cool jobs like working in a library where it's nice and quiet, where you can do homework, they go first. And so you want to make sure you're on top of that. I would also say if you are not awarded WorkStudy, still call the financial aid office and see about perhaps getting on the list. I've seen students, of course, still get WorkStudy who are not awarded it. And there are many non-WorkStudy jobs on the campus as well, too. So I think it's a great program that all of you should take advantage of. The college understands that it's a student's first year potentially, and they're very busy with classes. These jobs are not that difficult. They really are not, and take a lot of time. So it's a great way to earn some money for college costs.
Yep.
Student loans are offered and must be accepted or declined. Would you like to expand on that, Angie?
Yes. Part of the financial aid award is that subsidized and or unsubsidized loan. That is part of the financial aid process. The school does require you to make a decision on that before you start classes, essentially. They will, once you've accepted to that school, they will require you to complete that process. If the student is utilizing those loans, they need to accept them, complete the loan counseling and the promissory note to receive and link those funds to the school. So I'll touch on that a little bit more about how to do that later.
Sure, and I'd like to actually just kind of show how about I show them the website, Angie?
Sure.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, one thing that you can actually do to be kind of ahead of the process is to go to studentloans.gov and kind of begin this, okay? So you go to studentloans.gov. Let's see here. It's not popping up as easy as it used to. There we go. This looks like it right here. Yep. So you can go to studentloans.gov and log in with the same FSA ID and password that we set up for the FAFSA, same folks, okay? And you log onto this, go through the entrance counseling, which is learning about the loan. Very important that the students know what they're getting into. And then they'll even have you answer a couple easy questions just to make sure you actually read the stuff. And so it's a thing that all of you can probably do here right now, I think, right, Angie? There's no reason why I can't do it yet.
Okay. No, you cannot do that. No, you have to wait until you accept the offer from a school.
That's right.
You're making a commitment to the school. And then as you're completing your financial aid, you have to complete that loan process because you're accepting it to the specific school. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Just trying to give you folks some tips, maybe be a little proactive, but that's why we have Angie on the call. Make sure she keeps me in.
To keep you in line. However, that same website gives you the information for the differences between the subsidized and unsubsidized loan,
Yep.
the current interest rates, and all of the information that you should answer any questions about those loans. So that is a good resource to read up on in preparation for if your student plans to use student loans to help fund their college.
Studentloans.gov, everyone. Yep. And then there's the Parent Plus loan, Parent Direct loan, may be offered, but it's definitely not financial aid. And yeah, I've seen many families make the mistakes over the years of just taking out this loan blindly because it looks like financial aid. They almost offer it sometimes, and it looks like financial aid. Definitely not. Parent Plus loan, currently right around 7%. You only have 10 years to pay it back. So kind of definitely a last resort for us in planning purposes. There's lots of better financial, economical, mathematical, better choices out there, in my opinion. So I'm glad this is the last on the list because it's definitely a last resort financially.
Yeah, and it's just a question that comes up a lot, especially as the student has completed that process because a lot of these schools are getting sneaky and they're adding that on the actual award letter as a potential fund source to reduce that total out-of-pocket cost, and it's deceiving. It's deceiving on the award letter because it looks like it's financial aid, and it's not. So if you have questions about the parent loan, definitely discuss that during your award evaluation and when you're discussing how you're going to pay for your decided upon out-of-pocket.
Great. Excellent. All right. Examples of award evaluations. And so we're going to show you an example of an actual award evaluation that we will review during your meeting. So let's just jump right into that. All right.
Can you put them side by side?
With the
yeah, like make that half, like scrunch it to half your screen and put the slide next to it. Or I guess you don't need to.
You're gonna mess me up there, Angie.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, everyone.
No worries. So here's an award evaluation from Seattle University. Okay, and it's an initial award evaluation. So you can see we have the cost of attendance at the college, about almost $60,000 right here. The family's EFC of 32.9, and that means they have financial need of roughly 26. A decent need at this college. Now, I would say too, if you have a small need, folks, very small, yeah, need-based financial aid pretty much off the table in most cases. And this is a really great example that Angie picked out, everyone, for an appeal letter, which we'll talk about in just a second. The school scholarship was $20,000, and we got above the historical average. So that's great. That's a good thing to see, that the historical average right around 15.3. So this student did very, very well. either like their grades, SAT scores, or their essay very much. Now we see a school grant of $700. Not a lot of money there for the grant, the need-based financial aid. I'd say this school is kind of lowballing this family a little bit. And that's what we can see with this award evaluation, folks. That's why this is so powerful, is really seeing, how the school did in breaking down the offer very in depth. And so I really like this award evaluation for that purpose. We see the loans here. Any other grants that the state and federal grant may be offering here? Grants from the school, grants from the state, Pell Grants, again, that'll be from the federal government. SEOG grants, that's also from the federal government. Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. These last two here, I would say, actually last three, these are free money programs based off extreme need. You don't have a chance of qualifying for these in most cases unless your EFC is $6,000 or less, okay? Subsidized loans here for a total aid offered of about $26,000. And then we can see the percentage of your need that was met, 98%. On average, it's about 73%. So hey, it's looking pretty good. Percentage of gift aid, free money that this student received, 79%. About 3% of average. And so the school knows what it's doing. We can start to analyze this and say, well, hey, yeah, it's a better than average offer, but maybe they can do a little better. So we can see the out-of-pocket cost of $33,400, and then without the loans, for some of you who just do not want your students to have any debt at all, any skin in the game there, we can show that for an out-of-pocket cost without the loans of $38,000. Here at the bottom is also very helpful to see where the student fell based off their academic standing. So when we send out this report to all of you, at the top of it will be a detailed explanation of how to read this report. Please read through that. It talks about should you appeal for more aid, how that happens, either through a special circumstance, a loss of income, or academic achievements. So we see here that the top 75th percentile is 1360 at this college. The low end is 1150. The average middle is 1255. So we've learned over the years that to be in the top 25 percentile, usually to get that top scholarship at a school, you have to be 100 points above this average middle, okay? So we see here that the student's SAT, not the highest, 990, okay? So they're actually quite a bit below the average middle. So 100 points above the middle, no. Did have a good GPA though, all right? So that good GPA a lot of times at private schools can really help out quite a bit. And here's some other schools as well too as listed. So again, we just can have a good apples to apples comparison. You see we got a little bit lower here at SPU, and there's a good bet because they were below the average middle at this school, okay? And then the last end of it here, we can really see how all the schools stack up, aid offered, and the final out-of-pocket cost. Anything to add on this, Angie?
Yeah, just basically during the evaluation meeting, this is what we're analyzing to help you understand where your student fell in this and help identify whether there is room for improvement or not. This particular student with that low SAT score probably doesn't have the opportunity to appeal for more merit-based aid. And at the same time, the EFC was a pretty decent EFC, and so there's not a whole lot of room for any need-based aid finagling. But at the same time, this could be a household that had a very significant change of financial income. There could have been a divorce in the household. There could have been job loss or retirement that changes what the current income is to what was reported on FAFSA to receive this information. So those are the things that when we're sitting down with you and we're going through all of this, we're looking at your whole picture to see where we can find you more money. Because if that's the case, then we need to talk about special circumstances. So, it's really helpful information if at the very least to solidify that you got a good deal from a school and to help you understand exactly what you're expecting to pay out of pocket from that school.
Great. Excellent. All right. All right. lost my spot a little bit.
There.
All right,
Stop.
perfect. All right. Perfect. All right, we're on to the next slide, though. Here we go. So appeals and special circumstances opportunity. So yeah, during your evaluation meeting, we'll review and discuss whether the award letter from private schools is on point, or if it's sufficient, or for need met. And depending on your student situation, there may be an opportunity for more, as we mentioned. So it's important to understand the difference between a special circumstance and, like Angie was mentioning, loss of income and those things, and actually appealing for more financial aid. A big difference there. So let's take a look at some examples. All right, let's see here. So we're looking first at initial award letter, or actually the appeal letter. I think we're looking at the actual appeal letter themselves, right, Angie?
Yeah, you don't have them open.
Yeah, let's take a look here. All right, here we go. Think example of like.
Ignore my email, people.
Actually, I think I do have them open. They're just under, here we go. They're under the Word documents. Oh, there we go. Of course.
There we go. Okay.
All right. Excellent. So here's an example of an actual appeal letter. So we have many templates, folks, that we've worked with over the years and have become quite good at this, just from knowing it can be done. But also, Angie has done a great job of really learning from a lot of different appeal letters. We've seen so many different award letters and tried so many of these. We've really found what works. And I think we have almost a better than, or close to, 50% chance of getting some more money. Is that right, Angie?
I'd say so. I'd say out of all of the students each school year for the past 3 years that I've been helping with this, that, giving them a basic template and understanding of what they're supposed to be addressing as the appeal, and giving a visual aid, showing them an example such as this of something that somebody else used previously that worked for them, has been successful. I'd say it's more about 70% of the students that actually do appeals for more merit-based aid, or potentially grant aid depending on the situation. Not a special circumstance.
Okay.
These are really, really helpful. I mean, it's better to ask for than to not and leave money potentially on the table. And when you have a circumstance where you're receiving good award opportunity, you've got the grades and you've got the GPA or the SAT score or ACT scores, it's really important to sell yourself to that school. And if $5,000 more makes a difference from getting your top choice over, the third but more affordable choice, then why would you not ask for it?
I think that's what happened too, right, Carol, right?
Yeah, actually, this student got an extra $5,000.
Yeah, this is actually a real life example that. Yep.
Yeah.
What was it? Yep, a real life example that I actually use in my workshops, folks. I talk to families about this. So yeah, it's really powerful. And again, no one knows the student better than you folks. So we'll give you a good template. The appeal letter, I'd say 99% of the times, if not 100% all the time, Angie can correct me there, needs to come from the student itself.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's our best chance of help there. But yeah, we definitely improved here. I mean, yeah, 70%, folks. And so yeah, definitely is worth a shot to go back and ask for more.
Yes.
Right.
And some parents that are very involved in the situation, can work with me on this. And then others, the student is the one that's very involved. So if it's you or your student that want to, if after the award evaluation you feel that this is necessary, either of you can contact me and I will work with you to address what key and relevant information you should be addressing, and give you the examples to use, and then I will be glad to review and give you some edit suggestions before you finalize and submit it. Doing an appeal, you want to do it in plenty of time before that May 1st deadline, because the schools do need to review the information and decide, go back to their COFRs and decide if they have more money to give you, or whether or not sometimes it gets reviewed by a board. So, you need to give at least a couple weeks lead time for a response. So, it's not something that you should just sit off to the side if you really want to request it. It needs your attention.
Great.
Okay.
Good stuff. Looks like we have 3 different appeal letters here too. This one even has something from, is this kind of what you wrote here, or the Stuart Grossman part to add something to it, or?
Yeah, this was an edit that I gave back to the student of, just to elaborate on what they're trying to say there. And so, that's just stuff like that.
Good.
I think I just want to make sure that the student is really putting their best foot forward. Some students are much better at writing essays and letters than others. And, this is the best place to learn if you're not polished on that just yet. And not to say that I'm, so savvy and such an, specially equipped, but I do know what they're looking for. And I do have a way to make sure that it is perceived of that letter. So.
Great. Well, thanks, Angie. I'm very humble of you as well too, Angie. I mean, over the years, folks, she's really done a great job of getting some more money from these schools. I'm pretty impressed.
This student got an extra 10,000.
That's quite the award, folks. I mean, yeah, he times that by 4 years. It's a lot of money. So yeah, there's a lot of money at stake here. Definitely worth asking for. The worst they can say is no. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So back to this. So I think we've covered that pretty good here.
Yes, and like I said, the special circumstance that really is there's something going on in that household that changed from the previous year to the current year that the school needs to take into consideration. And that is different than merit-based financial aid appeals. That is actually making a request to the financial aid department to reevaluate and manually recalculate the EFC so they can determine if that change of circumstance in your household affects whether or not or increases the amount of need-based aid that you receive. And there's limited circumstances that they will even consider. So it's just a matter of if your situation warrants that, and then finding out from that particular school what their requirements are and how you go about making that request. And whenever we have a situation like that, I try to help the parents out by doing that little bit of research to relay that information to them about that particular school and give them whatever pointers I can. Because usually it's a form that you need to fill out, and sometimes it's an online form through the student portal. And then they require supporting documents. Depending on the situation, they will tell you what documents that they require. So if you feel like you have a special circumstance and you're doing an award evaluation with Stuart or Chris, please discuss that with them. And after that appointment, they will put you in touch with me so that I can help you move forward on that.
Great. Well, thank you, Angie. And I think it's also important to say here too, to keep a positive attitude with all this stuff, folks. I know it can be stressful. I've met with many of you over the years, and in my 12 years of experience in doing this, I found so many parents that just get overloaded with all this stuff. I know it's a lot of information we're giving to you, and it also seems almost hopeless sometimes to get more money from these schools or to get financial aid or what have you. Remain positive. Jump through the hoops here and do all these things, and it's definitely worth it to make sure that we can get this extra financial aid for sure. So just remain positive. I mean, I say that from a lot of experience working with families over the years, that it's so easy to just kind of give up, to kind of give up sometimes. Well, don't do that. Don't do that. It's definitely worth a shot. All right, so accepting and declining offers. All schools apply to require the student to accept or decline the financial aid offer no later than May 1st. And that's very important to understand as well too, because I see many of these colleges, they're very tactful. I mean, they won't actually get out the award letters until April 15th. And I know why they do that, because they don't want chances for appeals, and they're usually top schools, and That really doesn't give a family too much time to consider. But with that being said, you don't have to make a decision so quick, is what I would like to tell a lot of you. I mean, definitely give it an opportunity to look at all the offers on the table to make a good decision. You don't get kind of roped in by the school where they say, oh yeah, you have to make this acceptance, take this offer, or you're going to lose financial aid and those things as well. So very important to understand that.
Yeah, those deposit letters that they send out are very misleading.
Sure. All right, I'm back, everybody. Had to let the housekeeping know not to vacuum right at this point. That's what happens when you work here late, folks. Sometimes they come in and want to clean up. So anything that we want to add on here too, the school provides directions to the student how to accept or decline the offer. Accepting and declining offers. Expand on this a little bit, Angie.
So accepting and declining offers. Every single school that your student applied to requires a response one way or the other. So if you have along the way, your student has decided, you know what, I don't want to consider that school anymore, decline their offer. Let that school know that you're no longer interested in them. Why? Because it releases those funds for some other student that is trying to get that extra money through the appeal process.
I love that.
Yeah. So if your student has a school on the list that they've been accepted to and has received an offer from, and they are not going to that school, and you know that today, have your student go on the student portal for that school in the financial aid section and decline the offers. And follow, all of the schools in their admissions and financial section have those steps to take. So there's going to be directions there to do that. But yes, so if you know you're not going to the school, decline the offer, release those funds to some other student that needs that money. That's helpful to the school, and that's helpful to your fellow freshmen across the nation.
Oh, that's so awesome, Angie. I mean, really, folks, pay it forward here. I mean, it's a fact too. I've seen it over the years, and that's why it's really good to, wait till you get all the offers as well too, because there's a great chance you can appeal and get more aid. So I definitely believe in karma myself. So yeah, decline that offer, put that money back in the pool so another student can get it, and that good energy will go out there and can happen for your student as well too. So yeah, thanks for adding that, Angie. That's great, and I have definitely seen that happen over the years for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, they do give you instructions. It's going to be in a letter, an email, or in that section on their student portal. There is information on what they need to do. The school obviously is hoping that you accept it. If you're choosing that school, you do need to make that acceptance by May 1st. That's the national acceptance date.
Great. All right. Accessing and using student loans. Yeah, so I kind of jumped ahead on this a little bit about studentloans.gov. Your student is eligible to use the subsidized and or unsubsidized loan amount. I'm a big fan of these loans, folks. We've all heard horror stories about student loans, but these are the good loans, the direct student loans from the federal government, in my opinion. I mean, they only average about $6,000, 4 years, $24,000 at the most. I know it's a lot of money, but still about the price of a new car in some cases. So, college is very expensive. And as we do our planning, I mean, you'll start to see that, college, of course, is very expensive, and we want to keep your out-of-pocket costs down. So I'm a big fan of these student loans. And with our overall plan, maybe have a financial incentive or a strategy to pay off those loans when they're done. FSA ID is required to access and apply an e-sign for those loans. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Also very important, many of you will call in and ask us questions. A majority of the information that you folks will need is on your filecollegeinfo.com website. Your FSA IDs and passwords, if a college has received a FAFSA or not, CSS profile information and IDOC information for those schools that require it. So this is also huge, and I know Angie definitely wants me to stress this. Don't lock up the FSA ID by using the wrong access info. So That's why it's important to have that correct FSA ID and password on our website, a great, safe, secure place to store it. And that's where it's at, folks, okay? That is where it's at. I can't stress that enough. FileCollegeInfo.com website. That is where your FSA ID is at. I've had so many families over the years say, hey, I don't know what this is. They go to the FSA ID website and they apply for a new one, and can really, really, really mess up the process. They'll lock themselves out of the FAFSA. They'll lock us out of the FAFSA. It can be a nightmare. So again, you hired us to help you. Make sure if you run into problems here, just give us a call before you start trying a lot of different things. There's a lot of security behind FSA IDs. You will get locked out of the FAFSA, and it will be a nightmare sometimes to get reconnected and get it unlocked. I know you have something to say there, Angie.
A lot. This is my nightmare, and this is time consuming when it doesn't need to be. I get a lot of, throughout the entire year, phone calls and emails from frantic students and parents going, I'm locked out of my FSA ID. I need to accept my student loan today because I waited until the last possible day. Please remember that we save your FSA ID username and password on the top of that college organization page, because that's what we need it for, to not only file the students' FAFSA with it. That's your e-signature and your e-identification. It works the same way for accepting those student loans and completing that loan counseling and promissory note. So it's really important to remember that it's right here. You gave us this information. We helped you acquire this information. It's saved here. If for some reason you use an FSA ID and change a password, please update it on this page. Yep. For us, for you, for everybody's sanity, please help us keep the most current information here. It's really important. It is your identity. It is verified between the Social Security Administration, the IRS, and the Department of Education. It's all encrypted. This website is encrypted. So if you save it here and we can see it, nobody else can. It's okay. It's safe. I promise.
Very safe.
But we need it to be accurate.
That's right. So it's very important that we stress that, folks. We just learned that from a lot of experience, and I can guarantee that if you go down that route and you make that mistake, it's going to cause you unwanted stress. It makes this process no fun. It can be fun. It can be very exciting if you just trust us a little bit on that. And so we are authorized preparers. I know some of you may have read stuff about, of course, not sharing this information with others. Well, you shouldn't. This is, as Angie said, your personal information, your electronic signature. But we are authorized preparers, and so it's okay for us to have that, and it's on our website. So yeah, just be careful here. Get that FSA ID and password. Keep us in the loop. You can update it right here. Life will be a lot better, trust me.
Yes, and make sure your student is aware of that.
Absolutely.
Because your student is the one that's going to receive an email from the school that says you need to complete this process, and they're going to freak out, and they're going to try to log in on that website, and they're going to mess it up and lock up their FSA ID. So please make sure that they're aware that that information is saved there, so that when they need to complete that process, they do. Again, they're not going to do the student loan process until after they have made that final selection and they're completing their admissions and financial aid process with the schools, so that they can actually do all their scheduling. Okay, so that's really important to remember at this point in time. Also, the studentaid.gov website that we showed you earlier, if you have any questions about the differences in those student loans, the current interest rates, how to use them, the loan repayment, deferment, and what that means to you, all that information can be found on that website. It's a very, very helpful website.
Great points, Angie. I think that you really touched on a thing I forgot that's extremely important. Yeah, everyone stay in contact with the students as well too. I mean, make sure everyone's on the same page. That's what usually happens too. The students are very independent. They're doing their own thing, which is great. But yeah, if a parent and student are not on the same page, and that student gets that email and goes in and doesn't know what their FSA ID is, that's where we can run into problems. And that's actually what usually happens. Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
And that File College info website, can you pull that up again, Chris? I'm sorry.
That's good. All right.
I just want to show,
Here we go.
arrow down to the schools and open up a school, please. So see the submitted column on the right-hand side? If there's a date there, that's the date the FAFSA or CSS profile or IDOC requirement was submitted/met. So if you receive an email from a school, or your student receives that email from the school that says, hey, we haven't received your FAFSA yet, look there first, please, because it is already provided to you that it's been completed and it's helpful to us. You know, of course we're here to assist you, but that's a question you can answer very quickly just by glancing at that information. Also, on that page, you see where we have the student ID, college username and password, and the college portal web. That's a place for you to put this website for that particular school. These aren't our requirements. This is just a helpful tool, especially with a long list of schools. As your student applies to these schools, they're receiving this information. This is just a helpful tool for you and your student to keep track of that information. But by no means are you required to put that information there for our use. Okay? I just wanted to point that out.
That's great. And just so everyone knows too, again, this may not make a difference to a lot of you because I know it can freak you out, but again, I've been doing the FAFSA for almost 20 years now, and I've seen so many schools email families saying, hey, we never received your FAFSA, and they have. These schools make a lot of mistakes here, I have to say. I've seen it just too many times. So that's why this website is so important. We can say, hey, oh yeah, you got it. You received it. And also take a look at your student aid report as well too, the SAR, that clearly lists all the colleges that received the FAFSA. That's kind of your proof of purchase, so to speak, that they received the FAFSA. So just prepare yourself. I mean, if you see one of those emails, yeah, the school, they didn't get it. They're getting thousands upon thousands of these. It's a good bet they definitely got the paperwork they need. All right, moving along.
And then the last one, we're done.
All right. Oh, great. So yeah, now we will open it up to questions. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing these questions. They're always fun. So please just bear with us here. I know there will be probably a lot of questions here. A question may pertain to you, it may not. So just be patient with us, and we'll try to answer all these. Okay, good. Is the award letter the same as the financial aid offer?
The award letter is the financial aid offer.
Yep. Yep. And good, important, and that's why we had that slide, just to make sure that you know the difference between the teaser letter, as I call it, that acceptance letter with the scholarship on it, versus the actual award letter. Yep. But
it is actually titled Financial Aid Award Letter from every single school in this country.
Yep. Great. Excellent, Angie. That's good to know. Yep. Looks like someone was unable to hear the audio. If you can send me a copy of the, yeah, we'll send out a webinar to everyone. Looks like someone had some trouble with the audio. That's okay. Yep, this will be recorded, everyone. I encourage all of you to come back and listen to it later for content. Is total cost of attendance in an award letter guaranteed for 4 years? A great question there, my friend. I saw that, and then that's a definite no, unfortunately. Very few guarantees in this world, no. So yeah, cost of college has unfortunately gone up, and yep, it's a good bet that cost of attendance will go up. Now, you know, there is some gray area to the cost of attendance. You know, they talk about miscellaneous fees and travel. There's some gray area there, but a good bet that's definitely going to come out of your pocket. That's why we try to make you aware of it. But tuition costs, yeah, room and board costs, they definitely have gone up. over the years,
Yeah.
so not locked in for sure. All
Right.
right.
And keep in mind as well, and this is something that will be discussed in your individual award letter meetings, should it need to be discussed. The cost of attendance is the average expected cost of attendance of not only the tuition that's required of your student, but that room and board. The room and board cost that's estimated is their average
Mm,
cost. Depending on the student meal plan choice, dependent on the dormitory choice, dependent on whether or not your student is on campus or off campus.
mm.
Those vary that room and board cost, but otherwise it's pretty accurate.
Here's a great question too that perhaps maybe I don't think I know this or Angie knows it, but we'll see. And that's also, we have our counselors as well too, folks. You can reach out to them on some of these things, and we can do a little research for you. Looks like someone got an award letter from Central, but son also applied to a flight program. No acceptance letter yet. And in our experience, did they send another separate award letter upon acceptance to the flight program, since that's an added fee of $15,000 per year? Any comments there, Angie?
You haven't received an award letter.
Yeah, so they probably haven't received a full-blown award letter yet from the school. What I've found over the years is that different programs, whether it be a flight program or honors college or those things, they will potentially come with other financial aid offers, but not always. And so, yeah, you'll just have to wait and see when that final award letter comes out, and then we can actually contact the school. And that's a great part of the appeal letter process, to say, hey, is this all you got? And the school can do potentially better.
Right, because and depending on the particular school, the specific program may have its own financial aid for attendance to that program. It might be merit-based scholarship. It
Yep.
depends on that school and that program.
Yeah, they have to have the money too, folks. Yep, they have to have the money, and that's where that report can be so helpful. Go ahead, Angie. Sorry.
Right, right. But though that scholarship or opportunity is not the whole picture.
Yep.
There's still the cost of attendance to go there, and there's still the potential of receiving financial aid by other means like WorkStudy, the student loans, and if there's any need-based aid that the student is eligible for otherwise.
Great. All right. Please remind us how to upload documents using Dropbox. Please shoot us an email, and we can get you connected with Angie, and she has a Dropbox. Many of our administrative staff do have a Dropbox link in their emails, so just go ahead and shoot us an email, and we'll get you connected there. Right, Angie?
Yes, and not only that, if you've received an email from me at all, it's already there.
If you ever got an email from Angie, you already have that. When is the right time to request additional money from a school, Angie?
You have to wait until you actually receive that award letter.
So yeah, I can see some of these questions came in early in the presentation. We may have answered some of these already,
Yeah.
but when is the right time to request additional money? That's a great question, actually, because yeah, we want to make sure that we have all the award letters, all the offers, and then evaluate them. That's when the best time is to go for those monies.
Yes. When you're referring to the appeal process, not special circumstances, you have to wait until you've received the award, because the financial aid office is not going to talk to you about more money until they've processed your financial aid.
That's right.
So as soon as you receive that award, if you feel, if you're locked in on that school, then, if you feel like you need to rush something and you haven't had that award letter meeting, or you just need some advice about it, reach out to us. I'm happy to assist you if you feel like you need to push something. But otherwise, if you've got your award evaluation meeting scheduled with Chris or student, wait for us to review all of those, because what you might find out, especially if there's multiple schools that your student is considering, is that one school might be a better fit overall. And be willing to offer you more aid. So, if you really feel like you need to have that question answered individually, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to assist you.
Here's a great question too, that I think Angie and I may have a different opinion on, because we may have seen different things. But is there any negotiating with an with an out-of-state university, not private, besides WUI?
No.
So, so any, so yeah, it's kind of crazy there, folks. I know it's in most cases definitely no. A good way to look at that is, an out-of-state university, they cannot make up extra aid. They're looking at you like, pretty much in-state as well for their aid in a lot of cases. They cannot make up your extra need because of out-of-state tuition, and that's why that's a great question. What I found over the years too is like a lot of these schools, like University of Oregon, for example, they'll offer, which seems like a larger scholarship than normal, maybe 8,000, but they're just kind of chopping away at their out-of-state tuition. So I know we haven't seen that in our experience, but I don't know, maybe for a top student, I would still like to maybe give it a shot because again, the college is still making money. Perhaps they may up that scholarship a little bit because they're just cutting down their out-of-state tuition a little bit. They're still making money off you quite a bit.
In my opinion, a state school is a state school. They don't have extra
Right.
money. University of Washington is the absolute most frugal school that we
That's
have
right.
dealt with in existence, and it's
Right.
probably the most popular in the entire, Pacific Northwest,
That's right.
and the entire west of the country. But they do not budge.
They don't.
If your student either received the scholarship based on their very set merit-based plan, or they qualify for Pell Grant or state need-based aid. That's it. There's no
Yep.
negotiating with them. Most state schools, there is no negotiating with them.
Yep.
If you feel that your student did not receive the merit that they should have, and they clearly qualify for it, then you probably want to discuss that with the admissions advisor at that particular school to find out why they did not receive the merit-based scholarship award based on the tier that they qualify for. Perhaps the GPA or scores that were sent with the admissions was not what you wanted them to take into consideration. Sometimes, because they have deadlines. And if your student has increased their scores, you have to actually speak to the admissions advisor to get permission to see if they'll even accept replacement scores, essentially, and whether or not it'll make any difference to the scholarship offered.
Excellent point.
That is not the same as doing an appeal.
Yep. Excellent point. Yep. Change of circumstances, special circumstances, maybe some kind of under award or miss award. Good. To whom should award letters be emailed? We have email address up on the screen. Again, this will go out to everyone in the recording and also the PowerPoint. So you can email those award letters to myself or to Angie, and we'll get those. My email is chrisg@grossmancollegefunding.com. Angie's email is angies, ANJIES @grossmancollegefunding.com. Those easy to get. You can just call into our office or also get this information, and you'll be able to get that email to us.
And if you're Stuart's client and you have his email on file, you are welcome to send it to him as well. They get forwarded to me. So you send it to Chris, he forwards it to me.
Yep, that's right.
If you get John on the phone at the front office and you send it to him, he'll forward it to me. So, if you have any of our email addresses and you can send your award letters to us. If you prefer to fax, the fax number is there. It's in all of our signatures in our emails as well. If you've received any email from me telling you to file your FAFSA,
Sure.
or answering a question, my Dropbox link is on there if you would like to use the Dropbox link instead. And then of course, in a few days when our recorded webinar is complete and we are able to send that out to you, I'll be sending that and the separate slide presentation to you. So you'll have my email and that Dropbox link at that time as well. Okay?
Perfect. Excellent. Thanks, Angie. So it looks like someone's still waiting to hear from one of their schools, Gonzaga. Again, a lot of these schools, folks, the award letters haven't come out yet, so just be patient. Even if your student applied by December 1st, should have received a letter letting her know either way. Yeah, you definitely will be getting an award letter, so good to check with the college itself to make sure they have everything they need. For many of you who have been accepted, of course, now you have student username and password to access your online account through that college. Make sure you get connected to that, folks. That'll let you know of any requirements that you need to do. Perhaps the school is still waiting for something and you really won't know about it until you log on. Or, a lot of times they'll email you as well. And sometimes we miss those emails, or they go to spam, or, a student just misses them. And that's why we encourage many of you to set up a special email just for college. So I'd say the most important thing is to just stay connected with the college. Make sure your student has that username and password, and they're keeping an eye on their financial aid website through the school.
And I have something to say on that.
Of course.
Keep in mind, every single school has their own timeline for receiving financial aid. They have a deadline. Most schools do not touch your students' financial aid information until after that deadline. Then they process it. So you might receive a cursory auto-generated email that says, hey, just remember this needs to be done by this deadline. Or, we're looking at your stuff and it doesn't look like we have it. Remember, check to see if the FAFSA and the other financial aid requirements have already been met. If you know that they have, disregard the email. That's really important to do, okay? Don't worry. But if for some reason you feel like you can double check on the school student portal in the financial aid department. But also, if you're wondering if you haven't received that award letter yet, how come? Probably because they haven't released them yet. And usually they tell you on their website when they're going to. One thing that I do to find that answer out for a specific school is I go on that school's website, and up in their search bar, I type in freshman deadlines. And I almost always receive the page that not only tells me the financial aid deadlines, and especially if they have early action, early decision, regular decision, separate deadlines, but they'll also tell me when they're releasing the award letters.
Good.
And it's usually a couple weeks after their deadline, sometimes up to 6 weeks after their deadline. Because remember, people actually have to process this information before they can release it back to you. So there is a timeline. It is not auto-generated in most cases. Okay? Please be patient.
Yep. Here's someone thanking us for all we do. Thank you so much. We love what we do. Thank you. If during the application process, WorkStudy was requested, but the acceptance letter does not list it, what do we do? And I kind of talked about that earlier. Contact the financial aid department at the college and see if there are any opportunities for WorkStudy. That's what you want to do. Have that financial aid office on speed dial. It's a very important number. All right.
It is. And you know what? Before you call financial aid, check the website regarding WorkStudy first, because some schools actually tell you what the steps are to receive WorkStudy. So check the website first, and if you don't find an answer there, then call the financial aid department, because they may. So if your student didn't readily receive it, it may be because that particular school only has a limited amount of positions and funds, and it's first come, first serve for the most needy students.
Okay. Here's a good question. Do you log into the Federal Student Aid website? I think you're referring to FAFSA. Do you log into the Federal Student Aid website with the parents login or students login? I believe you can log in with both, but be careful there, right?
No. Yep. You have to log in with the students' information to see the actual FAFSA student aid report.
Perfect.
It's the students' information. We require the parents login to complete the process, because that's attaching the IRS information. If you're able to do the DRT, not everybody is. And it's also e-signing that the financial information that was provided on the parent is true and correct to the best of their abilities.
Here's a great question I like here. I've heard some parents are having their kids take out student loans for their school, and then the parents will pay the loan if the student maintains their grades. That's excellent. Can students take out the amount of loans often needed to do something like that? So let me see here. Let me answer quite a long question here. Let's see here. I can't see the whole question here.
I don't quite understand what that was saying.
It's kind of, let's see here. What it's saying here, I can only see the most of the question. And so a student can average about $6,000 a year in student loans, as I mentioned earlier. So that and direct loans that have nothing to do with the parents. And so that could, of course, be paid off by the parents towards the end. But that's usually not enough. That is usually not enough for the overall cost of college. And so there are private student loans, and that's probably what your friends have been referring to, where it's in the student's name, but the parents have to co-sign. You can get as much money as you need there if you have a good credit score and good income to debt ratio. So there's a difference in understanding loans. I mean, there's direct loans from the government, about $6,000 on average, the most a student can get. But then there's also private student loans as well. And good to give us a call and we can talk some more about that. All right. Let's see here. Did you say there's no chance of appealing if it's a state school? Yep, that's what Angie said there. And again, that's kind of where she stands on that, in her experience for sure. For me, I'd still like to give it a shot, but I never give up, and I'm probably too hard-headed to know it.
You're not the one that answers those questions or receives the
That's right.
appointment.
That's right. So state schools are pretty stiff, folks. Yeah, they only have limited aid to spread around to a lot of kids. So it's pretty tough to get more money from a state school. I know I perhaps have seen it, but it is extremely, extremely rare. Yep.
Yes, and it's almost always very clearly detailed what the qualifications are in their financial aid section, where they break down scholarships and grants.
All right. Let's see here. I see better loan rates online than Federal Plus. Do you have ideas, favorites as well? So that's interesting. I'd love to have you shoot me an email on that, because the direct student loans are currently right around 4 and 5%. I would love to see these better rates. So again, the Parent Plus loan is about 7%, but the only other option really out there is a private student loan of some kind from a private institution like Wells Fargo, Discover, the credit card company, Sallie Mae. I encourage all of you to Google top 10 or private student loans and get a list there. And your interest rate will depend on your your income to debt ratio and your credit score. And I'll tell you, in my 12 years of experience with this company, I have never seen someone get a private student loan that was even close to 4 or 5% fixed. Now, they will offer some variable rates that are around there, but variable rates make me extremely nervous. And so you could potentially get a variable rate around 4 or 5%, but in most cases, that private student loan, if it's a fixed rate, or depending on your income to debt ratio, I see most of them between maybe 7, 10, 12%. I've seen them. So shoot me an email. Let's talk about that. I'd love to learn some more myself. Tough to beat the federal direct loans, and especially the ones that are subsidized, folks. The subsidized loan is the only one that is only offered through the federal government in most cases. So that means no interest. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Andy.
The subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And so if you're considering using private loans, please make sure that you go on to the studentaid.gov website and review the subsidized and unsubsidized loan. And if you're considering a parent loan, review those loan requirements, the interest rates, the stipulations, the deferment, all of that, and compare that with your private student loan options. Before you make a decision, because in most cases, especially if you have good credit, if you have good credit and you have the room to take out a new line of credit of this nature, then you might very well find a better rate somewhere else. But if money's tight, if you have strained credit, you need the federal government to support you on that one. Their requirements are a lot more lenient in that case. But almost, really pay attention to those interest rates, to deferment periods, when interest is accrued, before you make any of those decisions.
In my professional opinion too, folks, I mean, the federal direct loans are the best. The private student loans are second best. And the third, the Parent Plus loan, is the worst. And I'm actually a big fan myself of working with home equity, which I think is actually the best. It mathematically is really the best loan, the cheaper money that you would ever receive. I mean, again, what we're looking for a good loan is a low interest rate and a long term, which means the payments can be low. And then you have more flexibility to pay it back at your leisure if problems come up. So that's my 2 cents on that. Well, that's all the questions that I see for now. So I think we've come to a great place, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone so much for being a part of this call. Angie and I enjoy doing this very much each year and helping out as much as possible. Be sure to contact us and let us know what's going on and to send all those appeal letters in. Anything to add, Angie?
For scheduling your award evaluation, if you feel you want an award evaluation with Stuart or Chris, whoever your advisor is, you can either call John at the front office or email him at johnt@grossmancollegefunding.com, and either schedule yourself or request a scheduling link. But if you schedule, please make sure that you're scheduling for a time frame that you will have received all of those award letters by. Doing it 2 weeks from now and you still have 5 award letters that you're not going to get until March and April, that's not going to be helpful for you or for us at all. So make sure that you're scheduling that appointment in the time frame that is appropriate for you to receive the best value from that, okay? But John at our front office is the scheduler that you want to talk to do that. And then again, any of our emails, send us the award letters. If you can, preferably send them in groups instead of one here, one there, because that's a lot of emails and documents to keep track of. But yeah, and of course, we're here if you have any questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Angie. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone. If you have questions, be sure to let us know, and we will talk to all of you again, I'm sure, very soon. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.